April 7, 1998.
It's gone from this to this.
If you have a computer and a credit card, you can get started within 10 minutes and you can be wagering without ever having to leave your house.
They're betting on turning your home computer into a casino.
Wherever the leading edge of technology is going to be, there you're going to find gambling.
Place your bets, please.
But who makes the rules?
They don't have to tell you what odds are. They don't have to tell you whether you really won or lost. They don't have to pay off if you do win. There's literally no protection.
Tonight, betting without borders. What are the odds of stopping gambling on the internet?
From ABC News, this is Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Last year, 1,330,000 American consumers filed for bankruptcy, thereby eliminating about $40 billion in personal debt. That's of some relevance to all of us because that $40 billion debt doesn't just disappear. It's redistributed among the rest of us in the form of increased prices on consumer goods, all of which will likely be the subject of another Nightline somewhere down the road. I raised that $40 billion debt with you this evening because of a new and growing trend that is going to increase the level of unpaid debts in this country. What would happen if everyone with access to the internet could, in the convenience of their own homes or offices, log on to a cyberspace casino? What if you could place a bet on a horse race or a basketball game? What if you could play blackjack or roulette by way of your word processor? Well, you can. Not only is internet gambling already possible, already a modestly thriving industry, it promises to become huge. And even if wherever you happen to live, gambling is illegal, it is not at all clear that you are breaking the law by placing an internet wager in some other location where it is perfectly legal. If anything promises to increase the level of personal debt in this country, expanding access to gambling should do it. Here's more from ABC's technology correspondent, Gina Smith.
Tom Kasperovich is a 20-year-old college student and a recreational gambler.
It's fun, it's exciting. I mean, it involves risk, but I mean, it's also pretty enjoying when you win.
Used to be if Tom wanted to wager on a sporting event or play a casino game, he had to travel to a place like Las Vegas or take his chances with a local bookie. But now he's staying home and anteing up over the internet.
Actually, my first week that I played, I won $2,000.
Oh! There are now an estimated 140 gambling sites online, allowing players anywhere in the world to place their bets on digital versions of casino games like blackjack, roulette, and slots, or on sports and lotteries.
If you have a computer and a credit card, you can get started within 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you can be wagering without ever having to leave your house.
Using a credit card, gamblers open up an account with an internet casino. Depending on how the chips fall, that account is credited or debited during each gambling session.
Player wins.
I think for people that are not in areas where gaming is much available, if they're in rural areas or that sort of thing, it's really their only option.
Sue Schneider is editor of Rolling Good Times Online, a general guide to gambling. She says internet wagering is the hottest trend in gaming.
I think the main attraction is just that people are spending more time at home from a variety of entertainment purposes, whether it's video movies or whatever, and that this is just one other entertainment option for them that they can do at home at their leisure.
Okay, let's see the lottery one then.
Mark Dolan is experiencing that growth firsthand. He runs StarNet International, a pioneer in internet gambling.
We've had an excellent response. Now that this is such a big business and now it's really in your home or your office, that the potential for thousands or tens of thousands of users on at any one time is there, and it's happening.
2 years ago, internet gambling was a $60 million business. Last year, it grew to $700 million. And some believe that by the year 2000, that figure will be $10 billion. That's about what McDonald's makes in sales annually.
Once you go to internet gambling, you've maximized the speed, you've maximized the acceptability and accessibility. It's going to be in-your-face gambling, which is going to have severe detrimental effects to society. It's like it's the crack cocaine of creating new pathological gamblers.
Professor Kindt estimates that as many as 6% of people who gamble will become problem gamblers or even addicted, and a number of those will turn to crime or go bankrupt.
If people have to travel to Las Vegas to gamble, or if they have to travel 100 miles to gamble, that's a deterrent factor. There's a safety bridge there. But when people have the gambling right in their homes, there is no safety factor.
That's one of the reasons some members of Congress are determined to put the brakes on internet gambling.
A Harvard professor who's recently done a study concludes that within 10 years, that gambling with youth will be a bigger problem to society than drug abuse will be. So you've got the addictive quality of gambling exacerbated by the ease with which it can be done on the internet, coupled with the increase in gambling on sports events, and you've got a very volatile situation.
Kyle also worries about the fairness of the games, though he acknowledges that so far, reports of rip-offs have been few and far between.
They don't have to tell you what odds are. They don't have to tell you whether you really won or lost. They don't have to pay off if you do win. There's literally no protection.
Currently, there are no laws that specifically ban casino games or sports wagering over the internet. But saying the internet will not be a sanctuary for illegal betting, federal officials recently filed charges anyway against 8 sports wagering companies. To do so, they used an old law intended to target bookmakers who operate by telephone. But it isn't clear whether that law is enough to get convictions in those cases. To fill the void, Senator Kyle has drafted the Internet Gambling Prohibition Act.
We're saying that as technology evolves, it's now possible to violate the law using means that weren't anticipated back in the 1960s. The internet wasn't even dreamed of then. The activity is the same.
But passing a law is one thing. Enforcing it is another. Even Kyle admits it's virtually impossible to go after individual bettors. And it might be just as hard to go after the internet casino operators when a game on a computer screen in America might be coming from a computer in the Caribbean.
Can I commit an American crime by gambling at a virtual casino when the computer is hosted in one country outside of the United States? My message passes through 5 states on the way to leaving the United States and then goes through 3 countries and lands in Antigua. I mean, whose laws did I violate?
In a moment, going offshore, visiting the beachhead of internet gambling.
The tiny island nation of Antigua and Barbuda is just off the coast of South America. It's as well known for its loose tax and banking laws as it is for its 365 white sand beaches. Long a preferred location for companies seeking a secluded offshore haven, the island is also a favorite location for internet casinos.
They have to go offshore because these activities they could not conduct within any state in the United States. And they have found a jurisdiction that condones these activities and makes it legal for them to do it.
Mark Dolan's internet casino is based in Antigua, one of the few licensed on the island that doesn't take American bets for fear of U.S. legal action.
I think that the Antiguan government feels that they are a sovereign nation and that they have the power to draft laws and enforce those in their country based on how they want to run their country. And they have decided to issue licenses to conduct this type of business, and that is the jurisdiction of which they will be held accountable to.
Though Dolan's operation is considered reputable, the type of companies Antigua has licensed over the years have often raised eyebrows. It was from a base in Antigua that the world's first internet bank bilked over $10 million from its customers. And last year, a U.S. State Department report cited Antigua's internet banking and casino industries as all with a similar lack of effective regulation. Jeanette McAllister's card reads Expediter of International Investments. The government official says she's received hundreds of inquiries from internet casino operators looking to open up shop.
When the industry came here, you have to realize we did have and do have legislation for onshore gambling. We have a couple of very beautiful onshore casinos. So gambling isn't something that's alien, it isn't something that's offensive, it isn't something that's illegal.
But unlike real casinos, these virtual casinos typically operate out of nondescript storefronts. All they need is an employee or two to answer the phones and keep the computers running. That, and a one-time payment of $100,000 for the privilege of doing business here.
There's a terrible stigma attached to everything that is done in this quarter of the world. The image that has been created for this area through the United States has been one of incompetence, criminality, filth, hunger, poverty, and all of these things give rise to a feeling that we couldn't possibly have the ability and the wherewithal to want to run a virtual gaming operation on a level that would be acceptable to the standards of the United States.
McAllister says the internet casino companies bring a much-needed boost to the local economy, an estimated $3 million last year. The country is even building this free trade zone, which it hopes will attract more internet casinos and other online companies. So far, it's just an empty field.
Are these people really licensed? Are they legal? Are they paying their bills there? Can we come down and see them? We say yes. They're on St. John Street. Come down, and you can see them. You can see us. You can come in the zone. We're open. It's legal. It's free. Please visit us.
Will they put out of business operators who continue to accept American bets in violation of U.S. law?
No, because operators in Antigua and Barbuda are subject to the laws of Antigua and Barbuda, and they are not subject to any laws which are not identifiable under a specific treaty with the United States.
Antigua is not alone. Germany, Australia, and South Africa are among other countries getting into internet gambling.
Place your bets, please. What's the United States government going to do? Going to go down and do a trade war against South Africa or Australia? They're going to send the Marines down to stop what we're doing? If we're in a legal jurisdiction regulated by that country, the U.S. can't be big brother to everybody.
Michael's Worldwide Web Casinos, based in South Africa, has $15 million in private investment, mostly from Americans looking to cash in on what's expected to be an international boom in online gambling.
The fact is, this would be a very difficult kind of activity to regulate because we don't have jurisdiction over the people abroad who are doing it. So the way that our legislation is enforced is to simply pull the plug at the point of entry into the United States.
Kyle says the government would ask services like America Online to block access to gambling sites once the government managed to find them all. But there are hundreds of internet providers in the U.S. and more gambling sites going online every day. And casino operators really intent on getting the American market could simply offer a direct dial to their site, skipping an identifiable point of entry into America altogether.
Attempting to pass a law that's going to make internet gambling illegal makes the government look silly to its own citizenship.
Computer law attorney Mark Grossman says policymakers are looking at a 21st century technology through 19th century eyes.
The internet doesn't respect geography. The internet doesn't respect political boundaries. American thinkers have to open their mind a little bit from their narrow, traditional views of the United States as the center of the world.
The industry will continue to grow. It is here. It's here to stay. It'll develop and move into more credible jurisdictions. And as we see the big players starting to get involved, it will become a part of our everyday life.
The internet is a medium designed from the beginning without any one central point of control. And as it continues to expand, linking hundreds of millions of people worldwide, officials in every country are grappling with how to keep the laws of their nations intact. So far, no one's come up with an answer. I'm Gina Smith for Nightline in New York.
In a moment, I'll be joined by a veteran odds maker who introduced... When Robert De Niro played the part of a veteran bookie and oddsmaker in the movie Casino, the character was patterned after Frank Lefty Rosenthal, who joins us now from our Miami bureau. What do you make of this? I mean, you have always been able to spot the trends early in gambling. Is this one that's going to live?
It's alive, it's living, and it's growing, and it's going to become a phenomenon if it is not already, in fact.
If indeed this is going to expand as you suggest, and you think it's going to be big, then we're going to have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, more gamblers than we do right now, and almost inevitably they're going to be using credit cards. Let's say they welch on their bets. In the old days, gamblers used to know people who would take care of that kind of thing. I'm not sure if Visa and MasterCharge operate the same way, do they?
I doubt it very much.
So how are they going to collect?
I would think, for the most part, the write-offs will be so insignificant versus the profit that it really isn't an issue that, if I were an operator, would put on a top priority. However, even in Las Vegas today, as we speak, credit is extended, and the write-offs are huge within that industry, referring to casino business. You're not going to prevent a casino or an offshore gaming property from having losses. The majority of the people that wager in good conscience and pay their bills.
You know, Frank, that there are people in Congress now who are trying to close up whatever loopholes there are so that where gambling is illegal now, it will continue to be illegal. For the most part, that looks like trying to bail out, the Titanic with a sieve. Is there a way of closing it down?
Realistically speaking, I would think not. And when you speak about lobbying, you're speaking about the major operators from both the state of Nevada and Atlantic City. The only thing that comes to my mind as far as trying to negate the possibility of wagering on the internet, maybe someone ought to get a hold of Bill Gates and get Bill Gates and Janet Reno back in talking terms in Justice Department. He's probably the only human being on this planet that can figure out a way how to restrict the computer as far as gaming.
Actually, you've raised another interesting possibility, and these folks are A, not without money, and B, not without influence. You talked about the gaming interests in Las Vegas and Atlantic City, and I had sort of overlooked that. It clearly is not in their interest that internet gambling take off. It could make them irrelevant. So they are going to bring their not inconsiderable influence to play also. What can they do to stop this from happening?
They go the old route, Ted. Lobbying, contributions. What they're trying to do, they're trying to eat the whole pie rather than a slice of pie. The implosion in Nevada, as we're talking, it's almost beyond belief. As we speak right now, there's a casino that's going to open up, hotel casino, in about October 15th. Cost probably $2 billion plus. So I wouldn't be worried about the operators in Nevada, and for them to try to suggest that either internet wagering offshore is unhealthy while their menu is healthy is really hypocritical.
Give me, and we're going to have to close on this note, but I want you to give me your experience as a veteran in the gambling business. Your sense of what this is going to do in terms of luring a lot of people, who might have placed a bet or two at the office, but into a regular gambling pattern who otherwise wouldn't be in it. In other words, how much danger do you see here?
I really don't see the danger that you refer to with reference to the Harvard study. That's like saying that if you go to McDonald's and have a Big Mac, and that's loaded with calories, we're going to hold them responsible for obesity. Gaming, gambling, the same terminology. It's here to stay. The masses of population on the globe, they want to gamble, whether it's office pool, precinct pools, ABC's pool, or just individual pools. Gaming's here to stay. It's growing. And the only reason offshore gaming can exist is because of the supply-demand factor. if we were open-minded and more realistic, there would not be any offshore gaming. I have to tip my hat to the people with the gaming licenses offshore for being opportunists and having great vision.
Well, of course, that could also be said of the nice folks who bring us tons of cocaine and heroin into this country every year. If it were legalized, we wouldn't have to get it from Colombia. But you know, I'll let you respond to that quickly, and then we're going to have to wrap it up.
I agree with that, Ted. On the other hand, here where I live in the state of Florida, our state recommends, highly promotes the lottery. They encourage you to hit the dream of your life, your fantasy. The chances of you winning the lottery in this state or your state are virtually slim to none, and slim's out of town.
And on that note, Frank Rosenthal, let me thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in this evening.
My pleasure. Thank you, Ted.
I'll be back in a moment.